Welcome once again, ladies and gentlemen.
You're at 109 right now.
So, folks, I've got to lament the passing of the black people. We are gone. We are, uh, what? We have disintegrated. We are no more. White people have completely co opted our culture, our identity, our place in society. If we think we are standing somewhere, trust that we can be moved immediately. I mean, look at Altadena. Look at the families who have been displaced from their homes. All their memories were gone up in smoke, literally. And um, for the poor blacks who have no basic place in society, our position has been we have been displaced by the hordes of the droves of Latinos who have come to take our positions in the economy and in the system, in the American way of life, in the American world. Um, our history, as it is becoming much clearer to me, our position in the world has been we've been etched out. All right, our situations are precarious, and we are no longer. I mean, have we ever been substantially powerful? Um, well, if you look at the 1940s and then perhaps the 1950s, around that era, um, we might have had. I mean, I think that was our heyday. Look at the lives of the jazz musicians, of the professionals, the lawyers, the doctors. You know, the 1940s and the 1950s, or the 1940s to the 1950s, were basically a heyday for the blacks, as far as I know it, right here in Los Angeles, California. And since then, our numbers have just dwindled. Our position, our power has gone the same way as our numbers. It's all dwindled. Now, what's his name? I can't think of the gentleman's name. Claude Anderson, I believe. Yeah, Dr. Claude Anderson has said this for a number of years, for decades. He's been telling us as black people that our power has been limited time and time again, so much so that in the present day, in 2025, that black people have no power. And that has become evident to me. All right. Over the years, it's been evident, but in my life, it became more evident just by seeing, I mean, just the effect. After I graduated from university and I looked for a job, I was denied work everywhere that I went. There were no handouts, there were no hand ups, leg ups, there were no opportunities to pull us up. There was even a whole organization called Inroads that was supposed to lead us into Fortune 500 companies, give minorities, black and brown people, a way into these corporations. And I was one of those students who participated in that program. But unfortunately, after no, not semesters, but summers, 2 summers being a part of that program, I was not asked to join the ranks of the employees. I was just led astray. You know, after 2 summers, they had me work for them. They gave me some responsibilities, and it was 2 summers. They invited me back, but after the second semester, I keep saying semester. After the second summer, there was no job that they offered me. They were not saying, "Hey, come on board, Larry. We want you to join us." And I think after the second summer, I got it right this time. After the second summer, the program Inroads was then defunct. It was no longer in existence. So I had missed a window of opportunity, and I had been used by the corporate by that corporation. So that's my little personal story. But I mean, there are far worse stories for others, who didn't have an inroads program, young black scholars sort of program to even, try to get a leg up in the game. And so it's just when your cheese has been moved so many times, it's like, dang, I don't think they want me to have cheese, you know? So the realization has set in as early as, well, as soon as I got into college, and I couldn't really, yeah, couldn't make my way. And once I got out of college and I couldn't find jobs, it was that was another moment that was like, hey, something isn't right. And it wasn't so much that I never thought something was wrong with me. It was more so, man, something's wrong with this system because I couldn't get a leg up. Now the thing about it is, in America, I sensed it, that it was prejudice, it was racism, it was you're not the right, color basically. Um, and for me, it seemed like I didn't check the correct boxes. It was, okay, you're black. All right. So if you're not white, right? So if you don't check the white box, then that's a strike against you. After that, um, which school did you attend? Did you attend a name brand school or a school with name recognition? No, you didn't. Well, that's another check that you missed. That's another box that you didn't check off. Um, what else? I think that was it. Are you white? Did you go to the right university? That was it to get a job. Um, and I use that sort of criteria or that analogy to a checklist because when I got to Korea, the checklist was, I mean, it was wide open. The field was wide open. The checklist was, do you speak English? Have you studied English or have you been educated in English for, 13 years, 12 years? I guess kindergarten through first grade through 12th grade. Let me count those. One, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Yeah. So from first grade, and then there's that kindergarten, right? So kindergarten through 12th grade. That's 13 years right there. So, did you get all that in English? Then you are a native English speaker. And that's what they classified me as in Korea. So I got the job based upon the fact that I had 13 years of education in English. That was one check. And the other check was the country. Which country do you come from? If you come from one of the seven countries, one of the seven Western countries from which South Korea hired people, mind you, hired people, because you could speak English and come from India and they weren't looking to hire you. All right. There are a number of countries around the world, the Philippines, for instance, where there are English speakers, but if you didn't come from the seven countries, the seven Western countries, okay, Koreans didn't want to hire you. So those seven countries were the United States, Canada, Australia, and let's see, England, Scotland, Ireland, and South Africa. Now, South Africa was way down on the list, okay? Way down on the list. But South Africa was in that list, okay? Um, so yeah, and there was no consideration of race in Korea or basically in Asia when it came to a job. Now there was prejudice in Asia, too much of it, to really say that I loved living, in Asian countries, but it wasn't it wasn't such a problem. It wasn't so prevalent that it hindered me in my job search. No, because within 3 years of living in Asia, in South Korea in particular, I was able to matriculate from the lowly level of a tutor at an after school program to a university professor. All right. Well, I wasn't actually a professor within 3 to 4 years. I think at most 4 years. Let me see. I think it was 3 years. Within 3 years. No, it wasn't 3 years. It was actually yes. It was within 3 years, but I wasn't a professor. I was an instructor at a university. So I was teaching university courses, and had I stayed at that same university, um, I would have been promoted to a professor. Instead, I found that I could become a professor faster if I just moved to another, if I just took all of my experience at that one university and I worked at another university, which I did, and I became a professor. So basically, let's see, within 3 years, I was working at a university in Korea. And then within 7 years of living in Korea, I was a professor. Couldn't do that in America. You'd have to have like over 10 years of experience teaching, plus you'd have to have published, you know, shit ton of works, right? In order to be considered a professor or to be hired at that level. Although M.K. Asant was the youngest professor in America, black guy, M.K. Asant. So I don't know his story fully. I don't know his details, but he's definitely someone to, study and look at and say, wow, how the heck did he do it? Which is a beautiful, example. I'm gonna have to dive into his story to see really what happened with him. All right, but anyway, beyond that, the next thing, the major theme of this podcast is just prejudice, racism, how it exists in America, and I mean, it still exists because with 47's, presidency, man, it's so apparent. The guy just had us like, what did he do? I mean, he's addressing the prejudice. He's addressing he's okay. He's removed Spanish from the White House website. All right, Spanish, the Spanish translation of his policies and what have you. That's a tremendous move. That's a tremendously prejudiced move, because what he's saying there is he wants to put forth the idea that English is the language of the land, and that if you don't speak English, then you're not welcome. Essentially, I mean, or at least that's how it lands. That's how it lands on us. Like, oh my gosh, get this Spanish out of here. And in fact, 47 wants to deport, mass deportations of these Spanish speakers out of American society. So you get that from the White House at this point in time. And also you start to see the prejudices that people have and held in the past. And the lives of people that had to suffer under those prejudices. All right. I've had to suffer under those prejudices because, as I said, I couldn't get a job. All right. And, some idiot is going to say, oh, but you didn't work hard enough. Oh, but you didn't, blah, 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 blah. Well, listen, there's a man named Paul Revere Williams, a black man who was an architect and a lot like Malcolm X. If you know the story about Malcolm X said, "Oh, Malcolm X's teacher told him, hey, you can't become a lawyer. No, that's not the job for a black man." That's what Malcolm X was told. Well, in the case of Paul Revere Williams, who I just brought up, it was the same thing. He was being discouraged from becoming an architect. All right. He was being discouraged. His teacher told him, well, white people aren't going to pay a black man, and rather, black people don't have enough money to pay a black man to build their homes. But he forged along. He forged ahead, which is what I'm doing. I'm a black man, and I want to teach Spanish, which I'm teaching Spanish right now, but I'm also getting the prejudice. I'm also getting the prejudices from the people, right? That's what I wanted to talk about. All of this prejudice, all of these ideals and things. All right. Let me give you an example. I was a martial artist when I was younger. I am Kung Fu Master Larry. I was in a movie. But at one time, my martial arts instructor told me, my grandmaster told me, to open my own martial arts school. And I didn't see any future in that. He told me, yeah, open up a martial arts school. He was like, I opened up my school when I was about 25 years old. He said, you could do it too. I thought about it and I was like, I'm not the best martial artist. I'm not the strongest man physically. I can't break bricks and I can't impress people with my physicality, all right? With what I can do physically. I can't do that. So what would be my marketing ploy? What would people say about me as a martial artist that would make them say, hey, I want to pay Larry Wiggs to become a martial artist. I want to learn from that guy. I know what people would say to say about my grandmaster. They would have said, hey, look at this Asian guy. He knows the Asian culture. He is Asian. I want to learn that Asian culture from that man because he's Asian. Whereas if they were to look at me, they'd be like, what's this black guy know about Asian culture? Nothing. I don't trust him. I wouldn't give him two pennies. We're moving on. So I felt as if I was being set up. I felt as if I was being set up for failure just by being told, "Hey, go run out there and start a business." Now, maybe in hindsight, I mean, no, hindsight, no, that wasn't the way to go. All right, maybe God had a plan for me, and would have said, "Hey, that's Kung Fu Master Larry. Everyone remembers and knows him. Let's go. Let's follow Kung Fu Master Larry." I don't know. I did not explore that route. All I saw was, man, I don't see any. I don't see any other black businesses out here successful at this. Why would I take on all of that risk? I didn't see it as that, and I didn't see it as, "Hey, you only live once. Do it. Fail at it. Who cares? Just do it." I didn't see it that way. Um, and yeah, and I didn't do it. So, at this point in my life, I kind of look at it this way. Like, I want to become a Spanish teacher, and I want to do that. But in the classroom, I am teaching Spanish right now. However, I'm noticing the students are taking on the attitude of, or rather, I don't really know. I don't have confirmation whether or not they're looking at me saying, should I really put forth this effort? Should I really put forth the effort to learn Spanish from him? Because he's a black guy. I don't know. I do know that students have, um, let's see, students have challenged me. I think they students have challenged me more so than I think they challenge native Spanish speakers than I think. Okay, and I think that's because I use English in the classroom more so than I do Spanish. All right. But then again, the students that I'm teaching, well, they're not all Spanish speakers. They haven't had as much experience and years of study as have I. So I have to speak in English. And sometimes I have my, a veces, puedo comunicar mis ideas a los estudiantes. Sometimes I can express my ideas to the students. But for the most part, I'm using English. So maybe they wonder about my ability. However, I did have a moment last week or a class session where I read to them. I read to them in Spanish. So if they have any indication, or rather, if they have any doubt, then, or if they had any doubt, they should not have any doubt about my at least reading ability. They should know, oh, Mr. Wiggs, yeah, yeah, he read to us. He read the whole thing. I had a whole this whole story that I read for them. But but you know, it's interesting, and the students and their ideals. Um, yeah, I just wonder about that prejudice. It's prejudice. It's prejudice that there are these ideas that we hold to that are not that just aren't that don't serve us. They hinder us. They are challenges for us, and they're very real. They are very real. Um, the, I mean, it's not so much an idea when people say, "Hey," it isn't so much an idea that is hindering, a person when they decide, "I don't want to patronize this company. I'm not going in that direction with this person." It's not so much an idea. It's more so, I mean, it's a hard fact. It's a hard truth. They don't want you. Period. They don't want you. That is very difficult. They've decided, we're not going with you. We don't want you. It's not so much, oh, um we I guess I lost my train of thought there, but these are my thoughts. These are the things that I'm thinking about. Oh, but you know what? When I started, I was talking about the 1940s and the 1950s, and I was, you know what, to drive home this idea about how, as a black man or as a black community, we've lost our footing, we've lost our way, we are, I guess, listless in society. It's that we have a white woman telling our history. I found her video to get today, and it was just so clear. It was just so it was just so direct. It was so um, yeah, it was just clear is the best word to describe it. Um, Everything was just so apparent. She was like, "Look, this is what it was. There was racism, there was discrimination, there was prejudice, and black people were suffering, due to racism, lack of access to et cetera, et cetera. They built their own communities and they thrived within their communities, but then their communities were decimated, were challenged, were undermined by this other power structure. Like she's putting it out there and she's explaining all of that. And it's like, well, damn, that's everything that we had to deal with. And that's everything that we continue to deal with. All of the hardships, you know? What hardships she was mentioning, like discrimination, redlining. One of the worst, biggest discrimination, or one of the most violent things to do is to not afford a man or a woman to care for their family, not to make a way for them to earn a living. That is some of the worst violence. Okay, anyone could you know, um, have acted out upon them, right? That is serious stuff. And in my case, that was a violence that I endured when I graduated from college. I could not get a job to support myself, not unless it was a job at McDonald's, a job. And I don't even know if I would have gotten hired at McDonald's because then I would have had a degree and they would have been like, you don't speak Spanish, Pedro, Jorge, Juan, he's going to get the job, and he's going to like it, getting paid this low wage or what have you. I've lived an incredible life, but the challenges are real. Circumstances and situations are just daunting. Um, and at this point, I'm clear eyed, bushy tailed, and I'm talking about, what it is, what it's been, because to to go from America's job market whereby I couldn't make enough. I couldn't find a living wage, right, to support myself. Um, and the only way for me to live comfortably was to move to Asia. And America's checklist, it seemed everywhere that I looked, white people had positions that I wish I had held. White people were in those positions. And better universities, name recognized universities, they had that. Whereas I went to Asia and my university was fine. It was just a matter of, hey, do you have a college degree? Do you speak English? You get the job. And then, what came with it was the apartment, a livable salary, livable wage. Like, man, we're getting money out here in Asia. So it was a vastly different experience, and I I'm hesitant to say, if you ever get an opportunity to go to Asia, because I have a lot of reservations about the experience. Like, you got to really be prepared. Hopefully, you have a lot of money saved, because there are gonna be so many challenges for you in Asia that you really need an exit strategy. You can't just go over there and say, "Oh, life is just peachy." No. It's not like that. It's a lot of things, a lot of challenges over there. All right. So this white woman, who is this white woman? Let me check her name out. Let's see. All right. So this woman wrote this book. Her name is Elizabeth Dowling Taylor. She wrote The Original Black Elite. I mean, that's ridiculous. A white woman writing about the original Black Elite, like that right there, just explains it all. You see, my point is this: blacks need to tell black history. Okay? When white people tell black history, oh my gosh, we've lost. We've completely lost. Okay? It's all out of our hands and it's just terrible. So that's one perspective. That's one perspective from a black man. Um, I am, I'm conceding. I'm conceding the, I'm conceding. I am agreeing with, I concur with Claude Anderson, who's been telling us for decades that the black community is lost, is financially, economically, adrift. Like we lost it. Um, I remember there was one time when I did have an opportunity to become rich or to become richer. And by rich, I mean just to have a little bit more money than I have today because I am wealthy, but that's a philosophical discussion. I'm wealthy I'm wealthy in experience, I'm wealthy in knowledge, you know. But rich, financially rich, man, what the hell? I think I had one opportunity to become rich, um, because when I was in Korea, my money was disappearing. I had a girlfriend, and so I had a car, and money. As soon as money came in, it was going out, and I had bills. I was trying to pay bills. I had debt I was trying to pay down. Hell, if I had known better, if I had gone to Korea, I could have just dismissed all of my debt because I was outside of the country, and I was outside the country more than 7 years. I was there for like 9 years. So by the time that timetable lapsed, that timeline lapsed, well, I had all of those defaults on my credit reports. They were expunged, and so my credit score just shot up. I didn't know that. I should have defaulted immediately as soon as I left the country. Like, I'm done with that stuff. But I was trying to keep up with it. So money came in and money went out. Didn't save a lot of money. Um, and maybe I could have saved some money. That's what I'm saying. Maybe I could have, but I didn't. But the one time when I did get some money, or when I did have an opportunity to become rich, I had one opportunity. I see it very clearly as one opportunity. It was, they say opportunity knocks once. So in 2015, I was in Peru and I met a guy, and the guy said, "You got to buy Bitcoin." Bitcoin was $250 at the time. And I'll never forget this. He said, "Buy Bitcoin." We were working in Peru, and in 2 weeks, I made $4,000 in 2 weeks. And with that $4,000, had I listened to what he had told me, I could have just given all that $4,000 to Bitcoin. And man, over the years, I would have been tremendously wealthy. And it was only 1 year later. It was only 1 year later that Bitcoin went to from $250 to $16,000 per Bitcoin. So I would have tremendously wealthier in just 12 months. Just about 12 months. But I mean, it was difficult to buy Bitcoin in 2015. It was like rocket science. You had to figure out how the wallets work, and you had to figure out codes and all this other type of jazz. So that was extremely difficult. But that was the one opportunity. Now, of course, between then and now, and between now and my future, yes, there are opportunities, but you have to be diligent, which is no problem. You just have to be diligent, and you really have to, yeah, be diligent and disciplined to do the things that are required to become richer. All right. But yeah, but I could have been richer in 2015. I think, hell, I could have done it in 2019 as well. I could have bought up in 2019. I could have bought up Bitcoin for around $3,000 because in 2020, that's when it skyrocketed again, and didn't it go to like 40,000 in 2020, and then in what 2024, I don't know. It was like soon after it went up to 60 or 70,000. And then 2024, we went to 100,000. Now in 2025, we're looking at it going even higher. So Bitcoin has been that vehicle. And that guy who told me in Peru to buy Bitcoin, he told me it was going to be like reparations. He's a black guy. This was a black man telling another black man. And there was nothing at that time. I didn't look at him and say, "Nah, I don't believe you." I was just more so like, how do I do this? How do I do it? And at that time, it was so difficult to buy Bitcoin that I couldn't do it. So this is me lamenting, you know, regrets, missed opportunities and stuff like that. Um, but it's onward and upward, and there are still opportunities out there. We just have to be clear minded. We've got to be ready to, I guess, assume new challenges so that, our tomorrows are going to be smoother. All right. So you're listening to IC 109.
You're at 109 right now.
And that's me just talking. So hope you listen and hope you check me out. And don't let the racism, discrimination, and prejudice get you down. It's out there. Just be better. That's that black excellence, just be better. That was the secret for Paul Revere Williams and Malcolm X. Just had to rise above. But in terms of Paul Revere Williams, that was his thing. He just kept his head down and he just plugged away. But he was very cunning because he had some ruses. He had some ways to lure people into his business to get their business and then to grow his business. And oh man, the man was pretty awesome. I have another podcast with Arius, Arius and Larry in Los Angeles, where we talk about Paul Revere Williams and his life. Check it out over there. This has been Larry Wiggs. This is more so a diary for January 22nd, 2025. My thoughts on life and circumstances after listening to and learning about the original black elite. All right. Life ain't ever been easy for us, you dig? Black people in America. Peace and blessings from IC 109. I'm out.